I've got the Anker Soundcore Boost. This is version 2. They call it the upgraded version. How do you know? Well, it doesn't have the auxiliary input. Got no auxiliary input on mine. I put it up against my £50 small speaker champion, the Tribit Max Sound Plus. And yes, finally, I had a speaker that I did prefer listening to at the £50 level. I know prices vary depending on your country. In the UK, travel size speaker around the £50 mark. My new favourite is not a new speaker, been around since 2017, although it's slightly different now. The Soundcore Boost. I'm calling it the version 2. My new £50 champion is the Soundcore Boost. My old pound for pound champion was the Max Sound Plus, and my new pound for pound champion is the Motion Boom. I mean, it's very valid. A lot of you are asking me, am I working for Anker? I do not work for Anker. I just happen to like their speakers. I've tried a lot of speakers. If you go over my reviews, there's a lot of them. I've tried a lot of speakers. I used to really like the JBLs. I've moved on. Better value from the Soundcore now. I don't work for them, but I do like them. And I do like the fact you get an app, and in that app, you've got a reasonable equalizer. You can EQ these speakers. It's not quite really an equalizer, things like you get with Sony, where it's really a balance rather than EQing the actual frequency. You got some headroom, and you can mess around with the sound. So it seemed obvious. Oh, well, let's try them all in the same video, but it wouldn't really be fair, would it? And here's the thing. We're talking about £80. It's going to, as I said, it's going to depend on where you live, but around, for me, 80 quid. Deals do vary. And 80 quid again for the Boom. At the moment, I checked this morning, less than 40 quid, 39 quid. So at the moment, for me, less than half the price. So the obvious thing is, you can get 2 Soundcore Boost speakers. Is that better value than getting 1 Motion Plus or 1 Motion Boom? I'm going to answer that in this video. First thing I'm going to show you is what happens when you get a second Soundcore Boost. Not just a Soundcore Boost, what happens when you add a second speaker? Most noticeably, you are doing 2 things. Okay, so you're taking the same speaker, you're adding a second one. What have you done? Well, immediately, I've got double the power. This is a 20 watt speaker, this is a 20 watt speaker. I've got 40 watts of power now. If you double the power, what normally happens? Expect around a 3 decibel increase in the actual loudness, perceived loudness. But I've done something else. I've doubled the surface area of the drivers. Increase the surface area of your drivers. Again, if you double the surface area, you're doubling the loudness, or you would expect to, all other variables being equal. So in other words, get a second speaker, all things being equal, you expect around a 6 decibel increase in loudness, which is not to be sniffed at, is it? But there's something else. The modern way is digital signal processing, which means you don't just have a speaker and it's not just fed from whatever source you have and via an amplifier, and that's it. You know, in the old days, we'd have a loudness button, or we'd have our treble and our bass button, and we'd adjust it according to the volume we're listening at, because perceived loudness for different frequencies changes according to the loudness. So what do? It's now easy to have a different frequency response depending on the sound level you're listening at, which means at lower volumes, the speaker will be more bass heavy. It will roll off the bass normally as you got the volume scales. Now, it's designed for one speaker, isn't it? When you add your second speaker, you're going 6 decibels up, which means you can now play it quieter for the same volume, and playing it quieter on these speakers that have all this real-time digital signal processing going on means automatically it's going to be more bass heavy, because you're playing it at a lower volume where the signal processing already is adjusted to give you more bass. So, did you follow all that? On paper, great things happen when you add a second speaker, not least, and I should have mentioned it right at the beginning, of course, 1 speaker I do that, 2 speakers I do that. What happens? I've now got a wide sound stage. So lots of good things happen when you add a second speaker. Bigger sound stage, you're opening up the sound. On these type of speakers, you're getting more bass, and you're getting a 6 decibel gain. And this is my comparison, a quick comparison to show you exactly what happens. Playing at the same volume, one Soundcore Boost, and then you add in the second one.
Gold, like moonlight over Hollywood, and it's cool, yeah, 'cause you know it's good. Oh, baby.
So did we get free lunch? Sort of. You know, we've now got a wide open soundstage. I'm measuring 5 decibel, a perceived 5 decibel increase in overall loudness, and indeed actually in the bass itself, 30 to 200 hertz increases by 5 decibels. So I didn't adjust the volume. I simply swapped in the second one to show you exactly what happens. The lovely increase in the actual sound levels you're getting in the loudness, and you open up the sound. Just to quickly, I did say 80, a single one, £39. And the other thing to note is rated on paper 30 watts, rated on paper 30 watts, and of course 20 watts. So technically on paper, we've got 40 watts now versus 30 watts, 30 watts. You're almost expecting it to go louder. However, you've got to remember, these are bigger drivers. Bigger drivers move more air, of course. And of course, we've got tweeters. We've got no tweeters. We've got 2 woofers. We've got woofers and tweeters, along with the passive radiators on the Motion Plus. The other thing to note is, unusually, aptX on the Motion Plus, in the days when they try to give you even more value, they kind of slip back. We're now getting SBC. So it's SBC in the Motion Boom and in the Soundcore Boost. Some people still not quite sure what the codec means. That's the level of compression, basically, that's going over your Bluetooth. More compression, Bluetooth is a lossy compression, and that's really the thing to remember. Less information that you'll never retrieve, SBC, compared to potentially aptX. The other thing of note, the only speaker here that has an auxiliary input is indeed the Soundcore Motion Plus, and that's a kilo speaker. That's a 1.5 kilo speaker. That's a 600 gram speaker, but together they are a 1.2 kilo speaker, so they all become quite even. So it's slightly more than the Motion Plus, but it's quite a bit less than the Motion Boom. Let's get on. Let's see what happens. Can it compete now? Can the Anker Soundcore Boost now compete with these bigger and on paper more powerful speakers? And just what happens? How does the wider soundstage now change the whole game? 2 Anker Soundcore Boosts versus the Motion Plus, the Soundcore Motion Plus, my previous pound for pound world champion.
You will feel better, you will feel better. It's hard to believe. You will feel better, baby. There's no need for a fight. Just repeat after me when I tell you goodbye. Give it 3 weeks, you will feel better without me. Better without me. Don't need a doctor just cause you lost me. Don't need to open the wine. No medication, antidepressants. All you need is time. No communication, ringing me on FaceTime. Baby, I ain't big enough. And next time you see me, you'll be completely glad that we broke up. Take it from me, you'll feel better, you'll feel better. It's hard to believe, you'll feel better, baby. There's no need for a fight, just repeat it to me when I tell you goodbye. Give it 3 weeks, you'll feel better without me. Better without me. You feel better without me. we fly? Will you remember what it's all about? Moving so fast and it only comes once. So let's make this last when the summertime comes. 'Cause you know what it is. It's the summer. We gonna party tonight. The best time of our lives. We getting on it and on it and on it, babe. I know you want it, you want it. Come on, let's play. Perfect summer. It's getting higher. I know you want it. Perfect summer.
So at these matched volumes, as I'm playing 75% on 2 boosts versus 70% on the Motion Plus, they are the same perceived loudness. For my money, 2 Soundcore Boosts are a clear winner. It has more bass and it's a more open sound. It's almost a win-win because you're not really losing out. Other than you had to buy 2 speakers and you're thinking, well, yeah, but it's going to be a nuisance, isn't it? I've got to mess with it. It's not. How easy is it then to set up true wireless stereo pairing? Very, very easy, because you have a dedicated stereo pairing button. It says TWS. It's right there on the side. You'll press that down on both speakers. They will find each other and they will then connect. And from then on, we're not talking JBL every time you want stereo, go into the app. It's a nightmare. For me, JBL are no longer speakers you can use as stereo pairs. I just have to turn on my first one, which will become a left-hand master speaker. I'll turn on my second one. And it's going to do its thing. And they're now paired. That's it. They're now stereo pair. Lovely, lovely, lovely. I know they're a stereo pair because I've got the blue light on the power there, but I've got the white light on the power there. I know master left. This is the right. Worked really, really nice. Can it really beat the deep, deep bass of the much bigger speaker? Even two of them weigh less and will take up less space than the Soundcore Motion Boom.
Oh. Magic. No, I'm never letting go. Now that I've been with you. When you kiss me, it's like the stars fall out the sky onto my heart to cover up what I don't wanna show. I let you in deeper than I let anyone else before. Filling up with my broken pieces, took them all and made them yours. Didn't know what my heart be needed. Skipping out, no, I can't keep score. When I lose my breath, boy, you got me breathing. Oh, every little thing you do, every time you hold me, take me higher, higher. Every little thing you do,
me out, my mind is just playing hard, it's running wild. Got me talking like a child. Find my soul, I know I'm just fading. Lifting me up, I know I won't take this far, so running wild. Yeah.
So that's the thing, you got to remember, you add two speakers, or you add a second speaker to a first speaker. Yes, you got 6 decibels more gain. You've opened up the sound, but it will never go deeper. It doesn't make the bass any deeper. It just makes it louder for the same volume step. We've got massive deep bass on the Soundcore Boom, and that still reigns supreme, even against 2. Surprisingly for me, the Boost does hold its own in the mids and the higher bass, but when it comes to the deep bass, and that's what you're really hearing from this speaker, it's a trillion miles behind the Boom. So for me, the Boom still wins. 2 Boosts is not a better listen for me than a single Motion Boom. So the only question left to ask is, well, okay, we've got 40 watts of power, 30 watts. Hey, maybe it goes louder. Does it? Maximum volume test.
Now it's better to help them, cause of you, you're welcome. Now it's mad at you, so dumb. Now you're true, you're welcome. You know we had this real hottie named Maria, and he was making it real hard to see her. We lost a couple of nights to tequila. We taking shots, we don't need margaritas. You made us stop, now you're late for the border. It's cause it's taking you 20 minutes to order. So when it's making you cry, here's my shoulder. You know you treat it like shit, so I told her girl, you know he's better now. If he's mad, don't matter now. Now it's better to help him, cause of you, you're welcome. Now he's mad at you, so dumb. Now you're true, you're welcome. Girl, I don't mean to be stealing, but I can't help myself. You know I got all these feelings and I can't check myself. Way treating you, that shit was madness. And now you're with me every day, that shit is magic. Whoa. And every time I can see you lying on Instagram, but every day I'll be showing you, girl, just who I am. Now I got a picture of a sad boy, cause he be crying over what he could've had, boy. Girl, you know he's better now. If he's mad, don't matter now. Now it's better to help him, cause of you, you're welcome. Now he's mad at you, so dumb. Now you're through, you're welcome.
100% volume, Soundcore Motion Plus, Soundcore Motion Boom, and Soundcore Boost. So loudest is the Motion Plus, but that's because its mids, its highs is pretty strong. You look at the Motion Boom, it's a completely different sound signature. So the Boom is strong in the bass, but it's easier to go louder in the highs and the mids. So the Plus is a couple of dB louder than the Boom. Technically, in peaks, 1 dB louder. But in terms of a balanced sound, it goes to the Boom. The Boom is 6 decibels louder in lower bass. It's 10 decibels louder at the 55 hertz peak. Looking at the Boost, it's finding its limits. It can't really keep up now. However, it might not go that loud. It's 3 decibels. It's 3 decibels quieter than the Motion Plus, but it's a different balance again. So low mid bass 30 to 100, minus 35, minus 36. It's only a decibel off the Motion Plus in terms of lower bass, but without the extra loudness in the mids and the highs, gives it a smoother sound signature. So it doesn't go as loud, but it plays a bit smoother. And of course, you could EQ that Motion Plus down a bit. But the real story here is in terms of headroom and still maintaining a listenable sound, Motion Boom is a mile ahead in retaining its bass. In terms of the deep bass, it's 10 decibels up on the Motion Plus, 13 decibels up on the Boost. So the Boost can hold its own, but ultimately there isn't the headroom to play it as loud as the other two speakers. So ultimately, yeah, we are pushing just a little too much on the Soundcore Boost. Remember, actually, it will play a bit louder in default mode. I'm trying to keep it simple, so I'm sticking with my custom settings for all these speakers. Just know for the Boom and for the Soundcore Boost, you'll get a bit more bass actually if you switch back to default mode when you get to maximum volumes. So, however, like for like, custom for custom, it's met its match. You can hear degrees of distortion. We're really, really pushing it. Not a bad listen, but we're really pushing it. Technically, yeah, going loud as Soundcore Motion Plus, but not a great listen. It's becoming pretty thin sounding, quite shrill. For me personally here, this goes the loudest, and if you're outside, that may be all that counts. The Boom is the best listen. We got that deep bass. It's retaining enough deep bass. It's good to listen, maximum volumes. But actually, I still think, even though we're pushing it hard, you're probably thinking two of them are still probably a better listen. It's a little bit smoother. We don't have the mids and the highs that we've got on the Motion Plus, but it can almost match the bass. It's not that far off, and therefore it's smoother, easier listen. So I definitely think the outcome of this particular video it's definitely something to keep in mind. 80 quid for two of these, still a stonking value. You're going to get a lovely open sound. So it really does sound nice. It really does open up the sound considerably. I think it might not go as loud as the Motion Plus with custom settings, but it remains, I think, probably a better, more enjoyable listen. And it's doable because it works so well. For me, I say certain speakers do really well in stereo, and then people come on and say, well, ours drops out. I've not had a problem. You just see me turn them on. I can separate them out. I've had no disconnects. It's worked really, really nice for me. But the Motion Boom still reigns supreme, pound for pound world champion. It's a great listen. It's a great all-rounder. And that's the outcome. Even if you're not going to looking at these other speakers, you can see adding a second Soundcore Boost is great value. It's it's cheap enough anyway. 80 quid for two of them. You do get a really nice open soundstage with decent bass. We're not sub 50 hertz, but it's deep enough that you're getting a sense of the music where you need it. You're getting your kick drums and stuff like that. You can hear it. There's impact. It's a nice listen, but for some, still a bit covered, still a bit veiled. But I tell you, if it's your only speakers, your ears will adjust. I've adjusted. Find it a really nice listen. Just bear in mind, we are pushing it quite hard. There are tracks when you can hear it, it's not quite... For me, I describe it as it can get a little bit gritty. Not out and out distortion, but, it's not clean. But for me, that's not a deal breaker because of the size and the price and what else it brings to the table. So, hope you got something out of this video. I thank you for watching.